Oh, and there's a cat. Hello, cat. Let's put the cat down here away from the candle. Hello, we're live. This is part 2 of, I believe it was last week's live stream that was unexpectedly interrupted by a power outage. So December gets 2 free live streams. And I'm probably going to be working just on some thumbnails today for a Year of the Snake piece, because 2025 is the year of the, I believe it's the wood snake. So it's going to be pretty chill. Oh, and you'll get appearances from Rusalka every so often. Let's see if she wants to just sit on me. Here she is. Here's her paws. Yes. What do you think, Rusalka? Year of the Snake? Yeah. Alright, so I've got a stack of loose leaf paper here. I've been working through this because all of my giclée prints come to me in their order with these in between, so I'm trying to make use of them and just, you know, whatever I have to sketch on, use up. These are also great because I can tape them into a sketchbook later if I want to rearrange and work on a project. So let's just dig into Year of the Snake thumbnails. If you're wondering what thumbnails are, if you haven't heard that term before, they are really just a study of little tiny mini compositions. You can do, a whole bunch of them to get your ideas out and to sort of work through one idea, to explore all possible compositions. Since you're usually I work in like pencil, so it's monotone, but I can work out the values and the shading to some degree in the small thumbnails. And that way I'm sort of getting out all of my ideas, and then I'll highlight the ones that I think are strong that I can then pursue in more of a rough draft drawing. And then from there I can have a final that I'll either paint or carve on a woodblock, or however I want to finish the illustration. There are a lot of probably not so great ideas that come out of the thumbnail process, and that's a good thing. You really just want to get everything out there on paper and find the gold. So I usually just freehand sketch my squares. These can be close to the final size of your drawing. Oh, back up, kitty. You don't want that. Oh, hi. Alright, so let's start with 8 of these. Okay, so I don't know if you can see these. It's just a bunch of squares at the moment. So this is where I like to also make notes about, like, what am I trying to incorporate into this drawing? Obviously snakes, okay, but I'm going to make little bullet points here at the top to sort of help guide me. It's the year of the wood snake, so I might want to incorporate trees, branches, leaves, maybe some vines. We can get more specific, like tree bark patterns could be really cool to explore. The color palette, maybe in the end, earthy, browns and greens. And this just sort of gives me a legend to kind of keep track of what I want to explore through these thumbnails. Okay. Whenever I do this, usually my first, I don't know, anywhere from 4 to 10 thumbnails can just be really generic and kind of boring. But that's the point. Like, we're exploring, we're warming up. So we'll just start with some classic snaky poses here. And this is low pressure zone. So when you're doing this for a drawing, trying to get all your ideas out, what I love about it is it's really quick because they're small, and you do not have to put a whole lot of effort into this. And you're just kind of playing in this square here. So let's do this. We've got this curvy snake, so let's say we play with some of these themes. Let's do branches. Let's say there's a branch that he's dancing around, and we'll put right through him here. You can probably hear my neighbors. So quickly getting this idea down. Maybe we want to have some leaves on the side framing him. So there's the first one. Another cool thing about this process is from each thumbnail, you might have the preceding thumbnail evolve from that, depending on your ideas. These are very small, so I'm going to try to zoom in a bit more. There we go. So hopefully you can see that a little clearer. So yeah, what I was saying is the thumbnails after this one, you can choose elements from this to develop into these. So I like this branch thing, but this is a very diagonal composition. So let's play with something a little more centered and balanced. What if the branch was behind him instead? And so that's where we can just keep evolving on this imagery. And I'll put the snake right in the middle. You can see how it's like, it's low effort. It's far more about getting these ideas on paper so that you can make an informed decision later before you commit to a whole piece. And I used to do this for my digital work as well, but obviously digital work is a bit different. You have Control-Z and many layers, so this really aids itself to the traditional art process. I do miss that Control-Z button, let me tell you. We have erasers for that. Okay, let's pull a branch behind him. This one's a bit more regal. When you balance anything out, it's a bit more commanding in its presence. That might be cool. Since this is the Chinese zodiac, you could add celestial themes, so maybe there's stars coming out of the branch tips. That's another good thing to put up here in the corner when you're making notes. This is celestial, zodiacal. There we go. You can also tie in other concepts, like maybe, I don't know, maybe we want a snake eating its own tail, which would be a completely different shape, like an Ouroboros. Put that here, circular. Now this could take on a completely different look. Maybe the tree is behind him, like in the other one. You see how it's evolving, or maybe we have the Ouroboros and the tree inside of it. hope this is giving some people ideas on how you can explore sort of one theme. Okay. So this one's cool. So now we've gone from very dynamic, very diagonal, to very centered and balanced, changing the shape of the snake entirely, and then turning it into a sort of medallion or a spot illustration. So it's really fun. We can even add stars around this. One of my problems, or I would say more like quirks, is sometimes I have like 5 different pieces that I'm like, I can see that evolving into a painting. Like, how do I choose? And you know what? You can always turn that into a set of some kind. You could turn it into a greeting card set. Heck, maybe we want a snake calendar. You don't know. A lot of products can come out of this phase. Okay, so let's pick a new pose for a snake. Start our next set. Let's do something a little more compact, since this is very flowy and loose. We've got a lot of space in between the snakes. Let's do something a little more compact. This one's going to be a little harder to work with. He's pretty small, but in this one I want to incorporate my note up here of the tree bark texture. So you can see he's pretty small. It's going to be a little hard to get the detail in here. So another trick that I want to show that I often do, if, like, for example, I don't have a lot of space to show the detail, and I'm really creating a map, like a blueprint for myself to refer to later. So if I did want to explore this tree bark idea, I can, below it, draw an almost like close-up of what I'm intending to do. So now this is where it gets really fun. Your whole page can sort of be a combination of thumbnails and sketchbook. So here's our snake body. If we were to add some tree bark texture on this, we can give ourselves a little detailed close-up of what that might look like. If I'm really not pleased with it in this phase, I might have to go and do more research. So I could put a note here that says, look at tree bark examples. This is all an organic, evolving process to give you as much information you need before you commit to a piece. So, normally snakes have scales. Maybe you'd want to add a little bit of lift here on the edges to show the tree bark curving with the snake body. Could be a cool idea. I mean, you could even put lichens on this. I mean, why not? It's tree bark. It is a wood snake, after all. Maybe he has little beetles living on him. It's really taking that element and merging it with the snake. And this type of creature design is so fun. I mean, you can pretty much do anything. So there's our close-up. I'll just make a note here to research tree bark types, because they're not all the same. Maybe you want it to be more shaggy. Maybe you want it to be more like birch or sycamore. I'll make that little note for myself, and we'll go back into the thumbnail and work on the rest of it. So if this one is going to be more like tree bark, Maybe we want a simple background that's more folk inspired with just leaves, because we're trying to balance out all that detail here in the snake. Now I could go all out and it could just be texture on texture on texture, but I do like to give some space for the eye to rest and move around. So let's put some theoretical little folky leaf bursts on here. Just thinking where I want to take this next. Maybe we want to add a leaf behind him to sort of frame the wood snake, really showing that earth element. This one definitely needs a little work because I would want to change the way the snake is interacting with the lines of this leaf here. I try to not erase too much in this stage because I am just trying to get ideas out quickly. And maybe we explore it better on this page. So let's make our snake again. So let's do a little more intentional framing with that leaf. So we've got our leaf stem, we've got the tip here. Maybe the leaf veins can mimic tree branches behind him. There's a lot to play with there. All right, we've got one more. I'm just looking at my inspiration boards to get a little jumping off point. Sometimes it's just the pose of the snake, other times it might be a pattern. Another thing that might be good for this is having two reference boards open at the same time, looking at the snake poses, but also the tree references. My screen's a little tight at the moment, so we're really just looking at snakes and seeing where it takes us. Ooh, okay. So here's an interesting variation. If we had maybe two snakes, in the middle, kind of have like a staff of Hermes thing going on here, which, you know, that's a whole nother symbolism. I mean, snakes are known for their healing symbolism, being sort of a medical symbol. That's actually another great legend to put over here is the symbolism notes. You can add healing, rebirth, new beginnings, all associated with snakes. Shedding skin, so you could, we'll just write shedding. That is basically removing that which no longer serves you. Okay, so we've got these. So this idea that I had was we're going to take a more balanced approach. We're going to add the 2 snakes and 2 trees on either side. So I'm just figuring out how I might want to do that. I could be straightforward and just add them one there, or maybe they're coming out from a different direction. So let's say they're coming out from 3/4 down. Almost like you're looking up in a forest at the tops of trees. We could even play with that perspective here. That would be quite surreal and interesting. Have these tree branches moving towards the 2 snakes. It's a nice dramatic pose. And to tie back into our theme key up here, we can add stars on the tips of these because I'm a little obsessed with that idea right now. For a few reasons, not only because it's celestial and ties into the zodiac thing, but there's some secret project that I'm a part of that is brewing right now that has to do with star trees, and I will announce that hopefully next month, which is very soon. Star-tipped trees. I'm going to actually make a note down here too because this would make a very cool tile or a t-shirt design. I tend to do this as I'm working where I think of the products other than a print, other than a painting where I could apply this. Let's see. So we have 8 now. So I want to check the time. It's 1:22. This was intended to be a pretty short part 2 of my last sketch stream. So I'm going to move into sort of the process of how I select a piece for a final painting. There are some really good ones here, and I can go through like why I think something is strong versus not strong, and we're gonna start here. So this piece here with the snake in front of the leaf, it's pretty simplistic, and I think that it could be a good addition to maybe a set, sort of a card set on its own. Certainly I could evolve this into a pretty attractive painting, but it's not really speaking to me. It's pretty straightforward. There's also, the playing of the leaf shape with the snake body is something that I'd really have to rework, and I could totally do that down here, and I could extend on that until I find something I like. But if I was to choose right off the bat something here to develop, I am very interested in this last one, which tends to be the case because you get so warmed up in your first set that eventually you get, I feel personally, me, and I've heard this from other artists too, you get into sort of more of a play mode. And so now your brain has warmed up working through all of these ideas and these elements you want to incorporate. We even got to the symbolism part, and then we end up with a more experimental design and we're more warmed up. So I'm probably going to move forward with this one. But I'm also interested in this spot illustration with the Ouroboros and the tree inside. Like, I think that's really inspiring. I can play with that symbolism. So these potentially could be finished pieces. This one over here also is pretty straightforward with the snake, just in a smooth, slinky pose and the folk florals around it. This would be sort of my go-to. It might be a pretty easy piece to finish, so I'm just going to put a star on that. This one could be developed a lot further. Obviously, these are tiny thumbnails I can extend on. So yeah, I think before I really settle on something, I want to take a couple of these, develop them a little further on this bottom page, which I'll end up doing. But these are definitely the ones I'm leaning towards. And again, like if I wanted to make a set of cards based on snakes, I could get some really nice different pieces in here for like a 4-pack. Let's see here. This one in particular with the starry background and the Ouroboros, that's a nice balanced image. So that is a little bit about how I create my thumbnails, think through the process, play a little, warm up. I hope it's been helpful. I think this portion of it is very important where you're making notes along the way. And then, like I said, if there's something you want to explore more, you can't really get the detail in, you can always sort of magnifying glass, like add a side sketch to explore it a bit more and make notes that say, I want to explore this on another sheet. I want to look into this detail more before I really decide whether or not I want to go with this piece. So yeah, that's that. I'm going to continue working on these. I'll probably post some of them on Patreon just to sort of, share a bit more of the process in a still frame because it is a little hard to see when it's this small on camera. And I can talk more about this and share the process of the wood snake painting or drawing or block print, yet to be decided, with everybody. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you on the next stream. You can follow my Patreon for free to see when that will be. You can also follow me on Instagram at the Dreamwood. I do plan to incorporate more educational and process sharing videos in the new year. So thank you. Have a great Monday. Bye.